FDA approved its approval for emergency use, and joining us to talk more about what makes this vaccine different is internal medicine specialist Dr. Abha. Doctor, good to see you.
Good morning to you both. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's talk about, we know there's some differences between Moderna and Pfizer and now Johnson & Johnson. Can you kind of explain what's happening?
Let's talk about the good differences. Number one, it's one jab. So when we talk about a loss to follow-up that might occur with two injections, we're not going to see that with Johnson & Johnson. We see protection against moderate to severe disease by 28 days. Within 14 days, there's measurable protection. It can be maintained at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius in the refrigerator. No, extraordinary measures need to be taken in order to ultra freeze the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I want to impress upon your listeners the following. Johnson & Johnson undertook this trial later than its predecessors, such that variants were part of the mix. So that's not something that we can say about the data pertaining to Pfizer or Moderna. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine trial occurred when we had variants circulating in Brazil, South Africa, as well as, the B117 variant seen here in the US. So I really want everybody to understand we in America are absolutely blessed to have 3 and more in the pipeline, 3 superlative vaccines now available to Americans.
And let's talk a little bit too, because, you hear people saying, well, this one isn't, the efficiency rate isn't as high compared to the other ones. So kind of put that into perspective for people and how to kind of analyze that information that they're seeing.
Absolutely, Deanna. Thank you for the question. Look, if these 3 vaccines had been compared head to head to head, we could talk apples across the board, but they weren't. So we're trying to compare data for Pfizer and Moderna against Johnson & Johnson when the 3 studies were conducted at different times, different points in time, and their measurable endpoints were different. Johnson & Johnson is 100% effective so far at preventing hospitalization and death. That means even if you were to get COVID, you're not going to die from it and you're not going to be hospitalized. Do you remember how in the beginning of all of this, you guys were so diligent about talking about flattening the curve? Johnson & Johnson will do that. People will not go to the hospital and people will not die. And I think when we talk about feats in science, really incredible feats in science, this is it. I still remember when our governor shut down our schools back in March, and now 9 months, 10 months later, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 possible ways of preventing severe disease in all Americans in this country. We just have to believe. And when you talk about herd immunity, also known as population immunity, how are we going to get there if we start questioning the legitimacy of a vaccine that never would have received approval by our FDA in America if it weren't deemed excellent? So I really don't want people to start worrying about percentages. We have 3 superlative vaccines at our disposal that will be readily available to all 330 million Americans or so by this summer, so that within a year or more of the onset of this pandemic and its frenzy, we could all get back to hugging and working and communing again. And that's outstanding.
Well, Doctor, thanks again for your insight. We always appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. And I just want to leave you all with one more thing, if I may.
Sure.
There's a lot of depression and anxiety circulating in America. And I really feel for you in the business of talking about the news. And I really pray that all of you are holding up. But for those Americans who can't get out of bed, who are riddled with anxiety and depression, I want you to see your doctor. I want you to go outside. I want you to find things that bring you joy, commune with your friends. But do not let this virus or this pandemic get you down. We are here to help you. And more help is on the way with these vaccines.